Welcome back to Samurai Jazz, and last time we were about to check out the new food at Eat. Well, we're not going to go there for food, but we may as well check it out anyway. And just like everywhere else in the world of Samurai Jazz, there are people inside Eat that want to kill us. There's a new enemy type that you just saw. They're enemies that just walk straight toward us and hurt us with their mind. I assume that's what's happening because they don't have to touch us to hurt us. This guy just straight up tells us that if we get him some things from the mart, then he'll let us move forward in the game. He doesn't fool around, he knows what we want. Now all we have to do is go find the mart. But first, let's see what's over here to the right. Just in case there's something important. I'm sure you've already noticed that if we die in this game, we just restart where we entered the room at. And we have infinite lives, thankfully. Oh, it's these guys again. And they let us through, but they really want some plans for that upcoming product. That's about as vague as you can get, but it's probably harmless. So right now we're looking for a mart, and also an office building. The office building will probably have someone standing in front of it, so that way we know it's blocked. Because the office building, of course, wouldn't be open. That would be way too easy. I bet that building with the guy standing in front of it right here. Yep, this is the office building. So let's go pick up the stuff in the mart, because the guy did say we should do that if we wanted to progress through the game. And over here to the left we can see some NPCs making very vague comments about nothing in particular. Just like always. The start of this room can be a bit tricky, but I find just waiting near the doorway and blocking the oncoming samurai is the best way to go about it. As long as we don't move as soon as we enter the door, we should always consistently be able to block those samurai without the extendo neck lady getting on our backs. Of course, hopefully this will be the only time we have to enter the room. Unless I forgot what we came in here for, but I don't think I did. We got a few things, like the guy at Eat asked for, so now we need to head back. You might have noticed that this game, in spite of being a hack and slash, has some point-and-click elements to it, or just general adventure game elements. Mostly finding items and giving items to other people. It is a little bit strange, but I honestly don't mind it at all. It's just an excuse to go from one place to the other, and you get to hear some more really weird dialogue while you're at it. I do believe the guy who made this game speaks English very fluently, so the dialogue had to be weird on purpose. And after we give this guy the some things we get a visitor's pass. No dialogue, he just gives us a visitor's pass. Like I said, that guy's no nonsense. He knows we just want to go forward, and he's ready to give that to us. The person who developed this title has made a lot of other games with really weird dialogue, but the dialogue in all of those games definitely makes more sense than the dialogue here. But that's because the future games try to tell more of a story. This is a really, really swanky office building. The lady at the desk doesn't seem to notice what's going on over here. Doesn't seem to be bothering her at all. This new enemy type is really easy. You just wait for them to shoot a fireball, run around it, and then slice them. You can't block the fireball. Of course, when we encounter this enemy type with other enemies, you want to lure them out separately whenever possible, because having an enemy that can shoot us while we're distracted with other foes is not good for our health. The rest of this room, though, is very rudimentary. Nothing we haven't dealt with already. We do want to press that switch, but first we're going to go upstairs. So if we die, we'll spawn from this side of the room, closer to the switch. It's very obvious, we just have to go when the spikes are down and press the switch. It's actually one of the easiest puzzles in the game, but somehow I screwed it up. It probably looks a little difficult to tell when you're standing on the spikes, and at first it is, but you get used to it really fast, or at least I did. This game does have a lot of really weird things about it, in the gameplay or otherwise, but really it doesn't bother me in the slightest. I guess I just like the game design and the overall atmosphere enough to ignore that sort of stuff. The game has very frequently been described as frustrating. People suggest you might not want to play it for very long or you'll get really upset. I don't have that experience, but that may also be because the game is in 3D. Games with 3D movement are a lot less frustrating to me than games with two-dimensional movement, no matter what. And I think it's interesting that that works differently for different people. As a fun note, all of the developer's future games, the ones he made after this one, have been 2D platformers with very intense difficulty as well. But I'm not able to deal with those very well. In spite of them clearly having better design and production values than this game, the fact that they aren't in 3D makes them far more difficult for me. Even this game's direct sequel, Shin Samurai Jazz, is in 2D, and it was the first 2D platformer he ever made. It controls really well and has a very cohesive story in comparison to this one. Rich atmosphere, cool boss battles, just really tough though. In this room, we need to use the computers to lower these spikes as we had done in a previous room in the first act, I mean. Even if it feels like you're hearing the same couple of tracks over and over, the game's music is good enough that I hope you don't mind. And if you do mind, then I don't care. This isn't a good position to start from. Not at all. We really want to deal with the samurai before we attract the attention of Extendo Neck Lady. After that, dealing with these two fireball-throwing devil spirits is pretty easy. Excuse me for that, the recording room was trying to attack me. Just as with all the other spike puzzles with retracting spikes, we need to quickly make our way while the spikes are down. All of them are almost exactly the same in premise. And they're all equally difficult, really. It's just about finding out which pathway is the correct one. Lots of enemies in here. It's still troublesome when we have more than one samurai attacking us at the same time. There is a sweet spot, a very specific time period, where the samurai are always open to attack. And if you get good enough at timing, you can abuse that to kill them without ever blocking. Or you can just mash on the sword button, but that's way more dangerous. It doesn't stop me from doing it a few times. This is the very top floor of the office building, so we're near our goal now. Only one more room left. We're attacked from all directions by 4 samurai as soon as this room starts. I like to come straight down to the bottom so I can have all of them on one side, but really this is not how you should do it. And not how I should be doing it. You can take out 2 of the samurai by moving either left or right really quickly as soon as you start this room. But my old beat-em-up instincts keep driving me downward. And I am too stubborn to adjust myself. There we go. These enemies by themselves, as has been said twice already, are very easy. We just need to get the last bit of data from, I believe it's the cabinet over here, or maybe the computer. And then give the data to those 2 guys that are blocking our progress. The same ones that wanted a cigarette last time. I told you they hit us with their mind. Almost all of the levels are like this in some way. You go on a minor fetch quest and you end up in an office building, and the office building is kind of like a dungeon. You get an item from the dungeon and you use that to progress. I mean, there's only 5 levels, so it's not hard to notice the pattern. Doesn't bother me though. And, oh, look at this. Really long room with a whole ton of samurai. We can use the lamppost to our advantage to get some of them stuck, but for the most part we just want to go with the strategy of luring one at a time, which I'm not the best at, apparently. But don't worry, we'll make it. I am doing a lot of dashing, but the dashing isn't necessary. It just makes me less bored while we're waiting for the samurai to get here. In the sequel to this game, Shin Samurai Jazz, there is also combat in addition to the platforming. But it's a bit easier because you have way more hits, and your hits regenerate while you stand still. I mean, that doesn't stop the game from being harder. But it may only be harder to me. It's not like there's a lot of people I can ask. These games are not exactly well played. Their unpopularity hasn't stopped the guy from making them, though, and I'm really glad about that. At first I was worried when I was looking at these games that his games were just an outlet for his music. But no, he really cares about game design, and that's very apparent. Still, you can buy his music, and you should probably do that. It's only $1. I'll see you guys next time for Act 3, where we will visit the skate shop and food.